What if you could confidently build a $5 to $10 million agency that runs without you? Not by working longer hours, not by babysitting your team, and definitely not by grinding through low profit clients who drain your energy. I'm talking about an agency that's actually built to scale or sell if and when you choose. Imagine waking up with clarity, clients that you genuinely enjoy working with and a team that you trust, and the freedom to decide what the next chapter looks like, whether that's growth, stepping back, or an eventual exit. It isn't just a fantasy. It's exactly what happens when agency owners stop being stuck and trying to push harder and start building differently. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how, because I've seen this work again and again. Lindsay was ready to walk away from her agency when I met her. She was exhausted. She was completely over it. 6 months later, she doubled her revenue, hired 2 new people, and launched a podcast. Her energy was back, and she was proud of her business again. Tony in the UK and his team kept losing pitches until he fixed the positioning. His very next proposal landed the biggest contract of his career. Brian and Jenny were on the verge of taking out a second mortgage just to pay their team. Instead, they changed their offer, landed their biggest recurring deal ever. These aren't just unicorns, they're agency owners just like you. And I get it because, well, I was you. I'm Laura Humphreys. I started as a freelance copywriter and I grew my agency to the $1 million mark. And then we got stuck for years. I was in everything, making every decision, holding it all together. Profit was always tight. Clients were too small. I couldn't hire without stress. I was working all hours and I still couldn't see a clear path forward. That might sound familiar. The business I loved started to break me. I was actually having panic attacks. I wasn't sleeping. The pressure was awful. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. What got me to the $1 million mark was not going to get me past it. I had to think differently. I had to build differently. I had to lead differently. This is what it looked like. For me, this was my trajectory. We were stuck at that $1 million mark, as I said, for years. And then we backed up the bus and simplified everything so that we had just 7 strategies to work on. And then we got to work. Within 4 years, we'd gone past the 10 million revenue mark and I sold to the Ogilvy Group. Since then, I've had successful businesses. I've been a mentor for many years with growth businesses. And over the last 18 months, I've helped over 140 agency owners from around the world do what I did, putting that same strategy in place. And what I see is the same pattern every time. We all hit the same wall, but there is a way through. The problem is that most agency owners have been sold the wrong advice. Get more leads, hire faster, tighten your SOPs, watch your profit more closely, hustle harder. None of that's bad advice. It's just the wrong starting point. Because more leads with weak positioning just means more low-value clients. Hiring without the right structure eats your margin. And obsessing over profit when the business model itself is not right, it's just going to add more pressure. Trying to scale like that is like tweaking the engine on a Honda and hoping it turns into a Ferrari. It won't. But it's not your fault. Like anything, you don't know what you don't know, right? So here's the reality. What got you here will not get you there. And you didn't start your agency to feel exhausted or trapped. You started it to build something meaningful, to feel proud of what you've created, to have options. Real options about your future. So my mission is simple. I help agency owners build self-managing businesses that give them freedom, confidence, and long-term value without working harder or burning out. So why do so many smart, capable agencies get stuck? And what do they do about it? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is where I want to show you what we did. And I'm going to show you the solution. It's not a tactic, it's a system. It's what we now call the agency owner's flywheel. And this is what it looks like. And so I'm going to take you through this now. So to start with, let's just have a look at what do we actually want? This is where we were when we were stuck. We actually said, what are we trying to do here? We called it the $10 million agency flywheel because we wanted to get unstuck from 1 million. And we wanted to build the ideal agency. And for me as the owner, the ideal agency for me was made up of these 3 things. And I think it will be for you too. The first is that I wanted to get the fun back. I'd stopped enjoying myself and I really wanted it to be enjoyable and fun again. The other thing I really wanted for it is that it was going to give me freedom of time. And I didn't want to work 80-hour weeks, and I didn't want to not see my partner, and I didn't want to be working on the admin-y stuff. I wanted to be working on the cool stuff. So I wanted freedom of time. And the other thing that was really important for me, as it will be for you too, is the financial future. You want this business of yours to pay you back for all your hard work, and you want to know that in the future you and your family are going to be financially secure. So those were important for me. So then we had to go, okay, well, what's stopping us? Why are we stuck? And it came down to three things. We'll go through them one at a time. The first thing we realized is that we had no positioning, weak positioning. We were not clear what our offer was in the market. We were not winning pitches. We were not winning enough proposals. We weren't getting ahead. And so we went, okay, let's acknowledge that we've got weak positioning, and what are we going to do about it? So clearly the answer is that we've got to get clear positioning. This was the first pillar of the whole plan we put together that moved us forward. And so we said, okay, well, how do we get clear positioning? And so the first one was where the hell are we going? You need clear direction, right? And I'd lost sight of the vision of why I started in the agency in the first place. And you might feel that as well sometimes when you're stuck in it. You lose sight of what you're doing. So we went back to the basics of what is the vision? What is the impact that we're making? What are our big, hairy, audacious goals here? And where do we want to be financially in 5 years, 10 years? And so we really sat back and got those things clear. So I could then lead the agency forward clearly. And it was exciting again. Then we looked at what was our unique value proposition, and we didn't have one. We were competing apples against apples, and we went, right, we're going to change this. And we really looked very closely at what we did into our DNA. And we came up with a thing that we did that was very different, and we started presenting that to market. And we also got really clear who was our ideal clients. We had too many small clients draining our resources. We got very clear what our ideal client looked like, and we built our offer to match them. And so that we knew that we were putting something in front of our ideal client that was attractive to them. So then we went on to the next thing. So what's the other problem we've got? Well, our growth is stalled. We've got inconsistent growth. It's just not happening. So clearly one of our drivers has got to be, we need accelerated growth. That's got to be a key focus area. So how are we going to go about that? Well, we don't have a sales system. That was something that we recognized. Once we've got our unique value proposition and we've got our ideal client, we weren't doing anything. We were relying on referrals. It was just, there was nothing in our pipeline that was consistent. So we're going to build a very simple, consistent sales system that feeds our pipeline. And we set about doing that. The next thing we realized is that we didn't have a client growth system. We weren't doing anything with the clients we had. They didn't even know half of the things that we did. So we deliberately, again, made it a very simple system for how we were going to consistently grow our clients. Then we moved on to the next problem that was very clear to us, to all of us. We were a small team, but we were very clear that it was way too reliant on me. I had my fingers in all the pies. I was with all the clients, even though I had a team. We had to fix it, and we had to create a self-managing team and a self-managing agency. So then we looked at, well, what are we going to do? How do we do that? Well, we need to look at our team, and we need a team of A players only. And so we did two things. One is we looked at the organizational structure and we restructured. And the second thing we did is we lent into a high performance culture. We had a nice culture. We lent into a high performance culture. Then we went, okay, so now that we've got our team structure and we've got our team sorted, how are we going to measure what we're doing? And we took all of the strategies that we'd come up with and we said, right, we're going to need to now break that down to what are we going to do in the next 12 months? What are the 7 or 8 things that on here that we're going to do in the next 12 months that we want to achieve? And who's going to do what? And we broke it down into 90-day increments, I should say, so that everybody on the team knew what they were doing. And we made it measurable so that we could actually check whether we were on track. This was huge for us because we'd never done this before. And this, my friends, is what happens when you get all of these 7 strategies working together, and every one of them is at least a 4 out of 5 on each of the strategies. What happens is you get momentum. And that is the agency flywheel. The agency owner's flywheel is these strategies working together. So that's when you scale or exit and it becomes possible. And I've seen it, we've seen it working now. We've been working with this for a while and we've seen it time and time again. You know, Phil started working with us, he had a local small town agency in New Zealand. After putting the Flywheel in place, he opened 2 new offices and hired an A player after shifting how he positioned the business. Jennifer in Florida had a capable team, but she was still so hands-on. She was having panic attacks too. She was afraid to let go. And after rebuilding her offer and sales system, she finally stepped out of the day-to-day. And Deanna rebuilt her agency so well that she took her first proper holiday in Bali, and she came back to a business that ran without her. The Flywheel also future-proofs your agency in an AI-driven world, because AI doesn't replace agencies with clear positioning. It doesn't replace businesses with strong client relationships, and it doesn't replace owners who think strategically instead of just delivering the work. Agencies that rely on execution alone are vulnerable. Agencies built on clarity, systems, and leadership are not. That's why this matters now more than ever. So here's what I want to offer you. If you're running an agency with at least $500,000 in revenue and you already have a small team in place, we'd like you to do the Flywheel assessment, which is something we would normally charge, the time we're going to spend on it, we would normally charge $500 to $1,000 for. We're going to get you to answer some questions, and my team and I will personally review your responses. We'll come back to you with clarity on your biggest bottleneck, whether your agency is currently built to scale or sell, and what your smartest next step should be, whether we work together or not. So if you're serious about building a valuable agency, this is an obvious place to start. So here's the invitation. You'll see it below. Just start the assessment, answer all the questions, hit submit, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it's been useful, and I look forward to receiving your assessment soon.